And we are live on the Make the Adjustment podcast. And I'm really excited today to be joined by my good friend, Neil Rogers. Neil is the author of a book called Bar Tips, which I've read. Neil has spent years in and around the hospitality world observing one of the most fascinating leadership laboratories out there, which is the bar. In a bar, you see human behavior, communication, conflict, leadership, and decision-making play out in real time. Neil has captured many of those lessons in his book, Bar Tips, which takes stories and observations from his life behind the bar years ago and translates them into practical insights about people, relationships, and leadership. I'm so excited to talk with Neil today about what entrepreneurs and leaders can learn from one of the most honest environments there is. Neil, you're a good man. Thanks for doing the show today. It's good to see you.
Chris, glad to be here, my friend, from the bar.
And we are recording on St. Patrick's Day. I didn't wear my green. I wore my MTA consultancy shirt because you own a marketing company. We'll talk about that in a bit. And you made these shirts for me. So I wore the shirt. And then you're like, where's your green? Because today's St. Patrick's Day. So you look good in green.
Try the map of Ireland on my face. Why wouldn't that? Why wouldn't that, right?
That's awesome, man. So, well, good to be here, man. So listen, when, I started my company 3 years ago and you have been an entrepreneur for a very long time. And one of the first things you did, you were very kind to send me this book. And you said, Chris, you probably should write a book, which I ended up writing. But I, too, was a bartender in my early 20s. And so a lot of relatable things in the book. As I was reading it, I totally could relate. And anybody that's been in, wait service, hospitality, bartending, I'm sure could, gain some insights from. But just talk to me about why you wrote the book, where the book came from, the story behind the book. Let's just start there.
Well, the book came as a basic way to keep myself from losing my mind during COVID. So that was one part of it. And it really stemmed from an evening up here at the clubhouse, where we are, when my daughter was being honored as by the chamber as one of the 30 to watch under 30. You've met Amanda before.
Yes, I have.
So I went to the event, and there was a guy that brought the Five Guys burgers to New Hampshire. And he was a nuts and bolts guy, nuts and bolts speaker like me. Folks, we're not going to hear any big words, no corporate speak from Neil today. It's going to be as if you came into my bar, I promise you. So anyways, he got up there, and you might remember, if you being in the service business, there's a thing called pre-meals. They start, basically it's the huddle it up. What's 86? What's the special tonight? Wine, whatever. How did we do last year? Okay. And then a little bit of a rah-rah speech. Well, his rah-rah speech went something like this. We're not in the burger business. We're not in the fry business. We're not in the soda business. We're not in the shake business. We're in the hospitality business. Now, of course, Lori, I don't know if you know this, but she was a food server when I was a bartender at Tia's in Boston.
I did not know that.
That's where I met her. So I went just like this and went, I've never left the bar business. I've been bartending on the road for 35 plus years.
Right.
And it just kind of hit me. Now, I did a little bit about it. What I did is I did some research on how other companies use hospitality, engagement, whatever you want to call it, to engage their clients, customers, whatever. And so I had that piece. Then I did there was a 30th birthday party for one of our guys that worked with us at a place called the Full Sail, which was the first bar I worked at 19 years old, down in Whitehorse Beach. And so I was very emotional after that, because as being a commuter student, I didn't have the Rollins experience. I lived at home and slogged my way through my degree, my 4-year degree that I got in 8, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, so this was my fraternity. So I was so emotional about it. I wrote about it. I don't know, 1,000 words. I don't know exactly what it was. Certainly, maybe because it was enough for a chapter, 5 to 1,000. Okay. And then I had also written stuff about growing up in the same place where the bar was, a place called Whitehorse Beach, which was we've all got one, right? You grew up, you went to that same place with your family. We were lucky enough, and not because we had a lot of money. My mother tortured my father into buying the place. So he sold a 2-family in Somerville to buy a cottage on Avenue B in Whitehorse Beach. It's like, Dad, we want that 2-family in Somerville back, right?
Right.
But anyway, so I wrote about that. It was my friends some of my oldest friends are from there. It's, I've got some from high school. That's my place where I really. So then a buddy of mine, I don't know if you ever met Terry McMahon, but Terry McMahon was a very successful Mass Mutual general agent. And Terry's success took him to some behaviors that he needed a new liver. So he got it. And during COVID, I would text people. I'm sure I probably text you. What's up, Chris?
Yeah,
how you doing?
Did.
Whatever,
yeah,
right?
You did.
And invariably, you get a phone call back, or certainly a text back. So he calls me back. So, and he's 18 months removed from this routine of almost losing his life. I mean, he was on the bed. There's pictures. I got pictures of it. And so he's just talking about all the stuff he's done. I said, Terry, what are you, Bill Murray from Groundhog Day? What are you, a jazz pianist now? I mean, he was like, I wrote this, I did this, I wrote a process on it. You should write a book. I said, what am I going to write on? And then I sat back afterwards. I went,
yeah, you know,
I remember.
Yeah.
So I had those 3 pieces, and then I just basically took the I'm not a whiteboard, but I took an artist pad, and I just started brain dumping. What is important? What are the traits? What are the things? These simple, and folks, all your folks out there, none of this is splitting the atom. One of the reasons why I wrote it and why I do anything like this, build the process, stay with the process, whatever, is to remind myself to do it.
Right. Yeah.
It's not about, do I want to sell 1 million books? That'd be lovely. But really, it was the cathartic process of actually doing it. And then understand.
You were on Casey Jaycox's podcast, and he talks about staying curious. And he says, I say it as much for the other person, more for myself.
Right.
And you're doing the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So that's really how it came about. And then it was a great thing to do because I was interviewing, people that I worked for, and owners, and then other bartenders and servers and all that. And I just asked questions ad hoc, and then in the end, it came up with, and the last chapter it's called Hospitality Happiness. It's where my mother-in-law, Lori, and I were sitting at the chop house in the Villages. Now, my mother-in-law at the time is probably 85, somewhere in that. So we sat on the corner of the bar. You know how you do that when you get 3 people? Now you get a little table, don't you?
It's a good seat. It's a good seat, yeah.
So, and the bartenders were just great. He goofing with my mother-in-law. Do you have an idea on it? This type of stuff. Nothing, but very, very, very mildly charismatic. If that's good, probably a good put term. So, anyways, and then I went to. I don't typically eat a lot of red meat, so I said, I like a pork chop, and he just puts his finger there. He goes, I said, is that the one? He goes, that's the one. Okay, all of that. So simple things.
Yes.
You get this rapport going.
Subtle. It's subtle.
And the whole concept of hospitality happiness it's a symbiotic relationship we're trying to develop. Bartenders got 15 minutes to an hour to get it done, right? Yep. We've got a lifetime with clients, we hope. I mean, we've got clients now 30 years they've been with us, and so we have a symbiotic relationship. We love their business, and they love the way that we do business.
Yeah. And you've shifted, we talk about the book and the lessons learned behind the bar, and, we'll talk about your marketing agency and everything you're doing there. But the reason I want to talk to you, Neil, today is it's so interesting. You and I have so much in common where, we did grow up in the trenches. I grew up in a bar, and I might've played some baseball and stuff, but I grew up in sales and on the road and, cold calling and all that stuff. But I love this book because it's practical. And one of the things I'm known for at MTA Consultancy and Leadership is we can talk about high level strategy, but we have to apply it today. Like we have to apply it later today. And I have to say, I work with lots of PE firms and boards that are looking to buy companies and things. And these guys went to Wharton and all these schools, and God bless, right? I learned so much from these people. But I'm like, have you ever actually had to have the conversation with a customer? Like, you ever sat across from them when they're having a bad day, they're not in a good mood, they're not ready to buy? It's like, so the skills that are learned are in this book, I feel like. And so what I want you to talk about next is leadership lessons, like about human behavior. Some of the things that are in the book that you could broadly speak to about human behavior that leaders that listen to this podcast can learn from, like leaders that might lack people skills. They're super dominant, or they're more like, what are some of the lessons that you learned behind the bar and obviously through the years of owning your business? I'd be curious to hear.
So we need to find the leader of the group.
Okay.
All right. Who makes the decisions? So let's do the bar first, right? Busy night. Celtics game gets out. They come piling in. It's mayhem. There's a group of them. Who's going to corral this group? Who looks like they're the one? You pick them out and say, hey, what do you need? And then it goes from there. And then it's like, okay, who else? And then circle the wagons for them. Can you get these guys going for me? Simple, right? But it gets that now you're not getting fired at one at a time. Meanwhile, everybody's screaming at you over here, and there's a cocktail waitress that way, and the manager's going nuts, right? Yeah. So seeking out that, and who's paying the bill? Mm-hmm. The budget authority, right? What's the difference? Okay, so there's the CFO. Got to make sure that we got him.
They're taken care of,
right? And and then, who's the decision maker and all that. So that would be like that would be a number one first thing that comes to mind. The one that I always love, especially at this level, gang, especially if you're CEOs, entrepreneurs, and all that, being right, it's overrated.
Being right's overrated.
Okay. So what we mean by that is if something goes wrong, and this was told to me by Jimmy Gallahue, a crazy food salesman, one of my first sales jobs, the last thing he said to me, when, after all this, when I was going out to have my own territory and go on the road, he says, listen, if you forget everything I've told you, remember this one thing. If anything goes wrong, start here. What was my role in this? How can I have done better?
That's awesome.
So it disarms you from like lashing out and saying,
awesome.
In that world, it was blaming the guy who picked the order in the warehouse or the person on the truck. That customer service person, she doesn't know how to enter an order. Nobody looks good. And nobody's going to feel good, and nobody's going to be all that pleased with you either, in terms of like if you ever need these people for something.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's one. I mean, the other one is like that always comes to mind. I always want to make sure. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do I'm going up to UNE next Thursday, and I'm speaking to a sales class actually.
Awesome.
You know what it's all going to be about?
Hospitality.
Here's the title of it.
Tell me.
Never avoid an opportunity to keep your mouth shut.
That's excellent. I love that.
Right.
I do sales training as well. And I talk about there's the 2/3, 1/3, you have 2 years, 1 month. I've actually said like 80-20, maybe 90-10 if you're really doing it right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the more you can, Dale Carnegie said it best. A, they want to hear their name, and B, they want to talk about themselves.
Absolutely.
Let them go.
And
can you practice this? You certainly can.
Yeah. And
even do that.
And I do some of the stuff in colleges, universities as well, and younger people especially. They didn't have the conflict. Like you talk about Somerville back in the day, or Malden, where I grew up back in the day. We had to have people skills to talk ourselves out of situations, right? And I feel like in the last 15, 20 years, that's not necessarily the skill some of our younger generations learn, including my own children. So I can talk to my kids as well. And I actually want to talk to you about that, because handling conflict, again, when I think about my practice, I get to see in the inside of 10, 20, 30, 50, $100 million companies. And when it's going right, to your point, there's clear leadership. He's communicating, collaborating, getting along. When it's not going right, it's dysfunctional and there's conflict, and people struggle with the conflict. So again, in the book, Bar Tips and your experience on handling conflict, what are tips that, again, you can apply? You can just talk about, hey, when I was in the bar, I did this, or how does it even apply today to a leader in the workplace? I'm curious.
Well, I'll tell you, a few things come to mind, and one isn't necessarily came from there, but it is all about cooperation and collaboration, right? And compromise. I don't want to start doing the whole 3 C's things or anyways, get all acronym on you, but it's kind of what it shapes up to be. But, it's like, are you collaborating? And are you, now this is going to be an improv gig. Are you yes and? Yes and is? It's an improv.
Yeah, you're agreeing to agree, but you don't really agree.
Well, no, it goes something like, hey, Chris, I really like what you've done with your logo above your head. Have you ever thought of it this way? And maybe we could make it right. Or you would have come to me, hey, Neil, I got this logo. What do you think?
Yes.
Well, Chris, I like that. Boy, I really like what it looks like. And I would probably add this to it. If I go this and say, yeah, but Chris, it's over. Conversation is done.
Right.
And that's what happens up on that stage when you go to an improv event.
Yeah, right. You're right.
If somebody doesn't keep rolling, and boom, it just dies on the fire.
Keep it alive. Yeah, right.
Keep it alive.
Right. Yeah.
So, and having never really, other than the crowds that I worked with back then, as far as working with, we're not a big company. We've got in total, there's 5 of us. Yeah. So it's not like, so we don't have, and everybody's, on their own, having their little businesses and contracting. So it's not like, but, and most everybody just does what we ask them to do. So it's not, and we're always sure we're thanking them, and we're bonusing them. We're sending them gifts and all those things that we do as a general rule, we prescribe that other people do in companies. So this little team has been together for 10 years now.
10 years. Yeah. So I would definitely want to talk about your business, because we knew each other socially. And then I was working in corporate America at the time, and you just happened to, I wonder if you remember the first conversation, like you happened to mention what you did. Yeah, Chris, you need some swag or do some marketing stuff. I'm like, yeah, I might be able to use that stuff. And obviously do, far beyond just swag and your marketing. But tell me about your marketing agency, marketing business. Like, tell me about the inception of that and what it is today.
Well, primarily we are in the swag business. We pride ourselves on making sure that people are using the product for its proper usage. I mean, it is, in essence, when used properly, it is one of the best forms of advertising.
I just realized I'm holding the pen. You
Hey.
sold me about 1,000 of these pens. And I got to tell you, for people that see it, if you watch the YouTube, I'm showing my pen. There's a QR code. Neil's idea. So I'm giving these pens out. Great idea. The links to my book, all the stuff. I give it to my dad. He goes, yeah, I don't like your logo. I'm like, Dad, it's not a logo. It's a QR code. Get your camera out. He takes a picture. He goes, oh, that's awesome. I'm like, yeah, so that was your idea. But yeah, that's I'm actually holding it.
We call that, though, Chris. It's called R&D. Do you know what that is? You're gonna like this one. Rip off and duplicate.
Well, there you go.
I met the rep.
Yeah.
He talked about the wide clip and how it accommodates the QR code and how that's specifically why the vendor did it. I just matched you up with the concept, so I'm the guy right here, and I'm happy to be that guy. We'll come up with some concepts on our own as well, but sometimes we're just packaging it together and connecting the dots, which is primarily, in the end, it's what I've been doing for almost 40 years.
Yeah. I mean, we can plug it into the show. What's the name of the company, website? We can talk about the end of the show as well, but just make sure people know what it is.
Rogmark.net, ROGMARK.net.
Awesome.
Rogers Marketing.
Thank you, buddy. That's great. So again, I want to focus on leadership lessons. If you had to pull a few lessons for leaders from behind the bar that every entrepreneur should understand, maybe 3 lessons learned, what would those be? Well,
we touched upon a few of them there. Those I would suggest are some of the main ones. I think one of the things in our world, peripheral knowledge is a good thing. What that means is in the hospitality world, that's Will. You may have seen this blog I did. That's Will, the doorman at the Intercontinental on Michigan Ave in Chicago. Everybody knows Will.
Okay, I'm going to go see
Will.
Will.
Why? You could walk, I guarantee, Chris, you could walk down Michigan Ave, staying at the Hyatt down the street, and you said to this guy, hey, listen, do you know where I can see some good jazz? He'd give you 4 places. Right? So how does that relate to our world? Well, if you can't do it, try to know somebody who can. How can you still help the person? Will isn't going to make any money. I made sure I left him a $50 tip before I left because put his name in lights too. But it was just like, because he made it. He made the whole gig, because I got stuck there for 3 days in the snow on top of it.
Right. Well, you've articulated 2 things I'd like to talk to leaders about. Number one is competency, right? Just knowledge and, having the answer or knowing the person who has the answer. I think that's really key.
Of course.
Is a big one. And then the second thing is
don't BS them either.
Don't be. Yes, that's a good one. No. If you don't know, you don't know.
Don't know. Yeah. Let me get it for you. Then get it.
Right. And then the Maya Angelou quote, which everybody knows about how you make people feel. In my sales programs, Neil, I talk about 90% of clients buy on based on how they feel. And so if you're a leader, your team acts upon how they feel. So making people feel a certain way matters, right? Because to your point, in the bar business, and by the way, I love Tia's back in the day in Boston. Sail off down that way. I would, love that place too. But I know you're at Full Sail, but
I was in both. I was in all 3 of those places.
Were you all 3? Yeah. But like you think about bars in Boston, right? There's hundreds. Why do people go back to the same one? Like why? Why do you think?
I can tell you why I do.
Yeah, tell me.
If I get taken care of and I'm treated well, I don't mean royal treatment. I mean up and down the street, kind and humble.
Right.
I'm all over it.
Right.
And then the fact that they may know where the yoga studio is or know where the best steak in town or whatever it is, that's a bonus. If you just treat people good. There was a woman that worked with us years ago. She was an awful waitress, but everybody loved her.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as a tactical,
yeah,
she was awful.
But people loved her though. Yeah.
Yeah. She messed up. So what? We're going to Val's table. We're fine.
Isn't that so funny?
So, I mean, and I just think that's, and it's all from, so if you want to take it right from the jump, when you walk through the door, what's it like? What does the hostess look like? What is he or she dressed properly? Do they engage you? There's a rule that the Ritz uses, and it's been used in other places, called the 10-5 rule. The 10-5 rule says if you're within 10 feet of a guest, you nod and smile. If you're within 5, you acknowledge them verbally. Hey, good
Wow.
afternoon. Good morning. How's it
Right.
going?
Right.
And the interesting thing about that, this is what I always say, it's, if you get into that, you're not going to bat 1,000. Somebody's had a bad day and whatnot. Yeah, I'm fine. Whatever. Move along. No worries. You did your part, right? But what you get is more than what you gave.
Yeah.
Because if you get that reaction, hey, I'm doing good. How are you doing? Awesome. I'll give you a quick, for instance, down here at Starbucks, I'm sure you've been through it on exit 1. I drove in one day, and I don't even drink coffee. I drink decaf coffee. I haven't had caffeinated products. Believe it or not, I haven't had caffeinated products in 20 years.
I actually don't believe that.
So I go in, I order, I get this. Hello, how are you? What would you like today? I said, well, I'd like a venti decaf Americano with a little of this. Yeah, it's great. Come on up to the window. I said, okay, I need to meet this person I was just talking to. And it was this young woman. This is going to segue into another tip. So this young woman, and I said, just engaged, says, tell me about you. She goes, well, I'm going to school. I'm working here. I'm going to school. Now, little known fact, you work 20 hours at Starbucks, and this will be in my next book, by the way. You work 20 hours at Starbucks, they will pay for your college. Now, it's online, but they'll pay for it.
That's cool. Didn't know that.
So anyways, I just, so now I'm, I don't want to, being fine. I said, if I have my book in my car, I'm going to bring it in for you. Right. So I pulled over. I opened up, I looked, I had one. I signed it and I brought it into her. I put it down. I said, this is for you. I want you to remember this one thing. Always do what you say you're going to do.
Yep.
Always.
Yep.
So the real good one that goes into a business situation, a sales situation. It was out as a convention almost 18 months ago. So it was in Milwaukee. So, I've been around in this organization for 30 years and Tops of the Trees, Hall of Fame, all this stuff, right? And so, at least our organization. My wife and I, by the way, are always going to give homage to my partner in life and in business. So anyways, so the young guys are always looking to ask questions. So you answer them, you give them tips, whatever. So the last event was it was at the Harley Davidson Museum. So the word was you're supposed to wear something bikish. Well, guess what? It's going to shock you. Unless they want my bike shorts and a top on, I ain't got anything bikey. So anyways, as I'm walking out of the trade show, because we always have a trade show at the deal, I walk out and this guy has got jackets. Now, for some reason, he wasn't on my route to visit. And he had what is known as dye sublimated jacket. That's where they dye the logos into the material. Okay. He's got biker logos all over this jacket. And I said, oh
my God,
let me ask you a question. What are you going to do with that jacket? He goes, I don't know. Take it home. What do you want for it? He goes, how about $35? Fine. He says, give me your card. Do a deal with me. Sure. Fine. Whatever you want. Grab it. I go to the event, put it on, walk in, and I want to chum around with this guy that I've known for years. I actually knew his brother better, but I've known this guy for years. And it was a great picture of us on it. And so anyways, this kid, Taylor, who I talked to and whatnot, before he says, hey, Neil, that jacket is awesome. What are you going to do with that jacket? I said, Taylor, I will never wear this thing again. He says, right. Can I have it? I said, you sure can. So the night goes on and, it's a cocktail deal and then there's a dinner and awards and all that stuff. And so, of course, my night ended a lot earlier than Taylor's. I'm sure he was in his late 20s, early 30s. So so the last day, and you probably recall this at the last day of a show, or the breakfast is a little bit more scarce than anybody. Everybody's trying to get on planes and get out of Dodge, right? So there he is sitting over at a table by himself. I have the jacket with me, right? I got it my chair. Mm-hmm. I walk over and I said, Taylor, how's it going, man? I say, Neil, what's going on? Oh, been great. A lot of good speeches this week. A lot of good content. Learned a lot, did you? He goes, oh yeah, it's been great. I'm going to give you the best lesson you've heard all week. I threw the jacket on the table and I said, always do what you say you're going to do.
Awesome. Right back to it. So good.
And so you know what the title of that, Chris, is? You can use all these if you want. No beer plans.
Yeah.
You know what that means?
No, I don't actually.
You know what beer plans are, right?
No.
Oh, it's after 3 beers. Chris, we got to get together. Well, how about coffee sometime?
Yes.
That's a beer plan.
Yeah, I know. Now I know what those are.
Now, you don't even have to be drinking to do a beer plan. You can do it over coffee.
Yeah, we'll catch up.
See you down at whatever. And so don't ever, just for anybody out there that's listening, don't ever invite Neil because I'll be showing up.
It's so funny. The more successful sales professionals, leaders I spend time with, it's so funny how the lessons are the same. They can be said differently. Because again, our pal Casey Jaycox in the sales industry, sales leadership training, wrote a book, Win the Relationship, Not the Deal. and he talks about the art of the follow-up. And you're kind of articulating in a way kind of that's like a really great follow-up, is like, do what you say you're going to do, and really, because you've always I mean, I have notes from you. I mean, I have all the stuff, buddy. Like, you talk about it, but like, you do it, you walk the walk. You just, you wrote the book, but you do walk the walk and you do execute.
But again, so if there are any young people out there, always take the notes along the way. I didn't pick that up off the ground, but a guy that was a mentor of mine, he's mentioned in the book, Bill Kittredge, and that was actually the never avoid an opportunity to keep your mouth shut line. Yeah. That was actually his father's.
Okay.
He was an attorney who used to say that to his clients. Never avoid an opportunity to keep your mouth shut. But yeah, so it was.
So listen, you're teasing the next book. Are you ready to talk about the next book?
There's two actually. One is, so we are, as you know, we're the proud parents of a 35-year-old non-speaking autistic man. And so that's going to be more along our caregiving line. As a matter of fact, that's my 12 o'clock call. We're actually, we're on the call with Under Armour. I think we're going to go down there and make a presentation, do a caregiving talk.
That's great.
So essentially, it's called. So our program, if for those out there, is called Positive Activity. I don't know if you've seen that website, positiveactivity.net. Yeah. So everything around what we do, Bar Tips is on there because it's a positive activity venture. And also, so this book will be called Navigating the Special Needs World with Positive Activity.
Awesome.
So it's our journey through from diagnosis to today, and it was heart-wrenching to get those first couple of chapters out, I'm not going to lie. So that's number one. But I'm also taking this Bar Tips concept, these simple concepts, and I'm getting a little bit more direct with it. And the fact, so it's hospitality and the tips. And they're going to be called, so it's called the Hospitality Advantage, and it's going to be Advantage 1, Advantage 2, Advantage 3. And it's all That's along great. The same line. So the stories might be a little different. They might be remotely the same, but it's not going to be as story driven. It's really, and I'm gearing it towards certainly a teaching tool for 16 to 26, because we want to educate the parents, the kids, the guidance counselors, right? To show kids that, because it'll all be those tips, but the last tip, the last chapter, and that's where the Starbucks thing comes in. It's going to be, have you ever thought of it this way? Trying to give the parents and the guidance counselors a fighting chance to inform these kids to get work in the people business, get your soft skills down. It doesn't have to be in restaurants or bars. It could be a Target. It could be anywhere where you've got to deal with the public, take it seriously. Right. And start realizing that these are the things: integrity, respect, all these simple concepts. And it's going to be a big, it's 6x9, and it's going to be a lot of white space. We want you writing. Originally I wasn't going to put it on Kindle, but we're going to make sure there's a companion journal that they can buy too.
Great.
That'll be kind of mirror. So because you learn and retain so much more by writing. So and it gets them out of the screen for a bit.
Yeah.
So, so it's trying to, so that they understand debt. Not that I'm a financial planner, I'm not. Debt, but I mean just the raw numbers of it. You can either be $100,000 in debt or flush with 20 grand in a S&P 500 fund. You make the choice.
Sure.
Yeah, you might have to not live in a dorm for 4 years and have all the craziness of that. There's some value to that, I guess. I never had the experience. Right. But I think you can pick that up when you move into Southie like everybody else does.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm glad you're doing that. That's amazing. Good for you, man. Happy for you. That's awesome. Listen, I could talk to you all day. This is great. I mean, we're talking about people, right? And I just love the fact that everything that you're talking about applies to leaders, sales professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners. You're leaning into hospitality. What's that book that came out, Unreasonable Hospitality, right? Like it's becoming a lost art. Maybe it already is a lost art. I don't know what happened, Neil, since post-COVID. I walk around airports and I go into restaurants and I just feel like people are more aloof, even a little more rude, ignorant. I don't even know what to say. So I do feel like that hospitality and everything you're talking about, it matters even more today, because I feel like it stands out even more today than maybe it did 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, like Tia's. You talk about Tia's?
Yeah.
So Tia's, when I got that job at Tia's, I was one of 10 people, 10 bartenders were the first 10 there. Of course, they have 10 beyond the bar on a Friday night now.
Yeah, right.
So we, And it was an inquisition. These people were restaurant people.
Right.
So when you go to certainly when you go to a national chain, national hotel chain or something like that, there should be higher standards. Not always the case, but it's like, I think part of what they should all understand, it's not unlike, like I said, it's not unlike sales. If you're helping somebody, you're making their lives better, you're doing something, you're helping their business, or you're helping them have a nice evening, there's a jazz you get off of that. It's selling something to somebody that really needs it and it's going to help them.
Yes.
Is the win. Can this really help you? So that's where your listening skills come in. That's where getting your active listening skills, because that's, like I said, that's going to be my whole talk. It's going to be my two pieces of that talk next Thursday, because I haven't got a lot of time, I think a half hour. It's going to be active listening, and humility, taking ownership when something goes wrong.
It's outstanding.
If they leave with those two things, they'll be. And well, by the way, got a whole kit for them, because you can practice it. Go sit at a counter somewhere. If somebody's open, ask them a question, and then shut up.
Yeah.
With every fiber of your being, don't interrupt them. Don't one better them. Don't talk over them. Be quiet.
Yeah.
And nod.
Live in the awkward too, right? It's okay for quiet. It's okay.
Oh yeah.
But you're articulating, making it about them. That's another lesson for people to learn, is when you're in sales, one of the biggest paradoxes in selling is by not selling. If you just make it about the other side, you'll sell more stuff, right? So it's not about what you want. It's about what they want.
Yeah. And certainly don't oversell them. If they can't use it, that was more than evident when I was an athletic footwear and apparel salesperson. You go into a small one store mom and pop shoe store, and you overload them with the wrong stuff that that they can't sell. Number one, you just did the wrong thing because you did the wrong thing. And number two, they're not going to be very happy with you when the stuff doesn't sell. You have to understand what your client need is. And as you work with them more, you can anticipate. So when I was back in that business, I'm sure you bought a Rollins bar cap, didn't you? The bar cap? Remember the old bar cap?
Yeah, of course.
Built my first house on bar caps.
No kidding. That's funny.
I sold millions of them. Millions.
No kidding.
And so when I would go into, when they wanted to do it at MVP Sports, and even at Olympia, both are now gone, who designed the wall? You're looking at them.
Yeah, exactly.
Lay it out. What do we need? Oh, you need Notre Dame. You got to have Bama. You got to have South Carolina for the name, right? So colors, how the colors all worked and all that, because I had experience and I understood the type of customers they had. And it was from doing it. It wasn't from, all these kids that are, I even speak at Berkeley too. I go to Berkeley School of Music. They're songwriters. What are they going to do? What are they going to do when they graduate? They're going to be salespeople.
Yeah. Right.
You're going to have to talk to people, and you're not everybody's going to respect your artistry as much as you do. Right.
That's great. That's awesome, man. What, and we both have 12 o'clock or 10 minutes away. So I just want to make sure we have a few more minutes, no rush, but I just want to remind listeners, where can they find you? Where can they find the book? If they're interested in swag, they're interested in the book, where are they going to go?
So best place to, for us is, positiveactivity.net. We'll give you a lot of the philosophy we shared today, a lot of blog posts on there, both from Lori and I. Mine are geared more towards, sales. I mean, I just did one the other day about toast. You know what toast is?
You talking about Toastmasters, or what do you mean by toast?
Toast. That it's the system that restaurants are using.
No, right? I'm not familiar with it. Tell me about it.
A lot of times, yeah. So toast. I mean, it's what they'll do is they can place their order on it. You've probably seen that at a.
Well, it's an app. It's an app. I have seen it.
And then it's a unit, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But then they can give you your tab and your QR code.
Yes, I have seen this. Okay. You're right.
So what do we miss by doing that? So someone puts down the tab. Yes. And it's got a QR code on it.
Yep.
Okay. So am I getting a W-2 from these people? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
So now I got a QR code. I gotta get, and now I'm into technology after my nice little beer and a meal, and now it's running, and I don't know if it's gone through, and da. How about we do this? How about you take the credit card, you go run it, and you thank me right then. Say, thanks for coming in tonight. You go back, you run it, you put it back in front of me, say thanks again, come back, grab it, and one more time, I appreciate you coming in today.
Yeah.
All missed.
That's right. 3 opportunities missed. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simple.
Right.
I was like, and it wasn't. And actually, one guy was a friend of mine. He's a guy that has retired and is just pouring beers at Epigram, which was here after you've been gone from the area.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like going. Of course, I'm not going to give lessons to my buddy who's pouring beers just to keep busy. You know, it's like we're good. Yeah. So, but yeah. So I mean, there's one that's just like those are the types of things I notice, and those are the types of things I put up there. Not because I don't mention the place. I don't diss anybody. I mean, especially I promote more than anything else. I want Will's on there and all that, all those stories. So, and then that story about the jacket. There's actually a picture of me with the jacket on. So
that's great. Well, one last question before I let you go. Man in the Arena. So you jump on the camera today. We talked before the podcast. I am a huge, huge, huge fan of that poem.
Not the critic that counts, Chris.
So
Man in the Arena.
What does it mean to you? Tell people about what Man in the Arena is and what does it mean to you?
Well, first of all, the best thing is my daughter gave it to me.
Oh, that's awesome. Love that.
She gave it to me for Christmas one year.
Very nice.
You know, so we've been slogging it out in the special needs world for 33 or so years.
Yeah.
And we developed we did things like we didn't take the conventional path. The conventional path was fight for everything you can get, beat them up. Yeah. I said, there's a budget problem. It's water from a stone.
Yeah.
How can we help them?
Right.
So we took a different tack. We created a teacher organization, a parent teacher organization called PACE, Parents Assisting Special Education. And we raised money a couple of times a year. We did a golf tournament over Green Meadow, which is completely gone. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's miserable. It's awful to look at. And then we did a dance. We raised a bunch of money and went right back into the schools.
That's awesome.
Teachers could dial in, ask for things, whatnot. Then Craig moved on from the schools, and we went and I created the first of its kind special needs classroom at Nashua Community College.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Greg was there. We've been forever doing those types of things and pioneering those, little, and again, all of it, all from that book. Buddy of mine said to me, "No, you probably never met Jerry Pagano. Jerry Pagano used to live up this way, and he came back. He'd come back, and he sat when it comes back in the summer. He used to stay with us in Plymouth. Hey, Neil, I loved your book. Is that how you did the other stuff too?" I said, "Yeah."
Yeah. And for those who don't know Man in the Arena, it's basically about if you want to armchair quarterback people, go ahead. The Man in the Arena is the one doing the work, and you definitely have been doing the work. So a lot of credit to you and your family. That's awesome, man. Well, Neil Rogers, Mark, thank you for being here today. A good friend of mine. It's very meaningful to have you. And I guess the last thing I want to do too for my listeners is life's all about connection. We've had a connection for a very long time. And so what I like to do at the end of podcasts is give away a gift. And so I'm going to direct my listeners and anybody in your network to make the adjustment podcast.riverside.com. And I have a new connecting icebreaker. So in the business world, I think sometimes leaders struggle with how do I connect with people? And I've always made fun of the forced fun activities at work. But this is not a forced fun activity. This is one of those like meaningful activities that if you do this conversation to start a meeting, or whether it's a 8-hour kickoff or a 1-hour leadership meeting, it's a really meaningful thing, because I feel like the informal interactions in life many times are more formative than the formal ones, right? The board meeting or the serious stuff, the strategy meeting. So, make the adjustment podcast.riverside.com. There's a free resource there if you want to connect with your team better. And so I want to give that to my listeners and your friends as well as a gift.
One more second.
Yes, sir.
Casey J. Cox.
Casey J. Cox, good man.
Okay.
Yes.
You mentioned his names a couple of times. Real quick, because I know we're on the tail end.
Please.
Casey J. I was on his podcast, and it was about being a dad.
Quarterback Dadcast.
Yeah, yep. It was great. It was just great because we talked a lot about Craig. So we talked a lot about Craig and special needs. Doesn't he hook me up with these people? Then those people hooked me up with these people. I went on a journey after Casey J. Cox with the nicest people all over this country that were these people.
Wow, that's awesome.
Right? They were making things happen in the special needs world, and in the end, it got us to a place where we were able to get Craig a new aide. It wasn't even there was no direct line from Casey to the aide, but it was Casey started here, and then I went here, and they got J.W. Gibbs over here, and I got this, and it was just like crazy. It was just like everybody was the same vibe. Wow. Yeah. So
listen, if I have a Mount Rushmore of, sales professionals, sales leaders, people that have really great tips on relationship-based selling, you and Casey J. Cox are 2 of my 4 on the Mount Rushmore. You guys are amazing. So I'm glad to hear that. I didn't know that. And I got the chills when you were saying it. It's incredible. That's awesome, man. That's a good one. Well,
you're going to go. I got to go.
We'll end on that note. Thank you, listeners. Make the Adjustment Podcast.
Thanks, guys.
Neil Rogers. Thanks, buddy.
Chris, appreciate you, brother.
Take care.